Hello and welcome to Science. Today we're going to be having a look at the brain, specifically the job, the function, the development and the protection of it. This is all part of the cells and control topic. And by the end of this week you should have completed most of the 2E pack. Some of those sheets are much harder than others. You will need to do some research to help get all those bits together. If you get really stuck or you haven't got a clue, drop me an email and I'll get back to you about that. So in terms of the brain, what does it do? So how this is going to work, I'm going to ask a question and give a bit of pointers towards it. So in terms of what the brain actually does, your initial thoughts are probably going to be things like thinking, keeping you alive, emotional regulation, keeping the body working, that sort of stuff. When you're answering questions about this, you want to be looking in a bit more detail. So words and concepts such as helping to control systems in the body, interconnection with itself, so it can self-regulate. You've got automatic systems that you don't think about, and you've got conscious systems that you do think about and you can do. You need to be talking in terms of information, so both processing, storing it, retrieving it, that sort of thing. So that should pretty much, consider all those bits, do the function of the brain. In terms of how it develops, it's really early on in the growth process that the brain develops. So it starts about 3 weeks after conception, so really, really early on. So the cells start differentiating into neurons. In total, it's about 86 billion individual nerve cells, or neurons. They're all laid down. In terms of the structure of the brain, very tightly defined regions that do some things. We don't know what other regions do, certainly in terms of GCSE biology. But the actual content, what it's made of, it's made up primarily of neurons. There's also, you might have heard of white matter and grey matter. White matter is the bodies, the axons of the neurons, and grey matter is the synapses, the gaps, that's where all the interesting chemistry happens. We'll do a bit more of that when we actually get onto neurons, which is later on. And then the third point that we're going to do about is how you protect it. So when you're dealing with questions like this, you want to consider how it can go wrong, firstly. So you've got physical attack. How is the brain physically shielded from the rest of the world? So you should start thinking that you've got your skull there. Your skull, hard bone, protects from physical impact. There's also a layer that will cushion inside to stop from vibrations and rebound impacts as well. What else needs to be protected against? You've got chemicals. So chemicals from outside, you've got your skin, you've got your skull, it's got to get through all that. But if you ingest something that's in your bloodstream, you've also got a barrier that stops it getting into the brain as well. So you've got the blood-brain barrier. Don't need to know the details about that other than it works. It's worth having a look actually about how it does work, just to get a bit more information. So you have a look up about that. But you don't need to remember the details of it, just that it exists. And also, how can you get protected against pathogens? So you've got your immune system that's going to take the forefront in that. So in summary of this, we've covered protection, development and function of the brain. Remember, do your research on those bits to help fill in those sheets. If you're really struck, drop me an email, I'll get back to you. And then just as a check, have a go at this little exam style question. So pause the video after I say it, have a go at it, and then I'll give you a few hints on answering it. So the question is, describe how the brain is protected, and that will be 2 marks. So, because it's a descriptive question, describe question, you'll need to say what protects the brain. And then the contents, you'd need 2 marks, so 2 things to say because it's a 2-mark question. So you'd have a method of physical protection, you'd have a method of chemical protection, and biological protection. 2 of those 3, you get the marks, no problem. Cheers, see you soon.